Julia was also able to speak with Democrat Congressman Troy Carter of Louisiana on Friday. He represents New Orleans, where we're streaming from today, and is a member of the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Take a listen.
And Congressman, thank you so much for joining us. Just to jump right in, we know that the Gulf Coast, really across the board, across the globe, we've seen these increasing extreme weather events, but unfortunately the Gulf Coast has been hit by a number of these very extreme hurricanes over the past few years. I wanted to get your take on the importance of strengthening Louisiana's grid against these increasing climate extremes. What do you think is needed for that?
Well, it's incredibly important. When we think about the increased natural disasters that are happening all over the world, we know that Louisiana is literally in the eye of the storm. And shame on us if we don't learn from past storms. We know that storms come every year. We know their names. We know that they come stronger, they last longer, they provide more havoc in their past. But we find ourselves hurrying to recover and prepare each time for something that is very predictable. So the importance of investing in resilience and shoring up our bases and making sure that we are operating our power grid in the best possible way, going underground even where feasible. We know that it's not always feasible, largely because of the water tables that we have in Louisiana, particularly New Orleans. But where it's possible, we should look to fortify our grid, either by strengthening the above ground or going underground where possible, which obviously will give us an opportunity to have less impacts with high winds that knock down our poles. The Inflation Reduction Act gave us an opportunity to really start moving in that direction, working closely with Entergy and CLECO and others here in Louisiana to fortify the grid. So critically important. And unfortunately, we find ourselves in a situation now where there's some backpedaling as relates to that. And that simply is not good for the overall well-being of the people in our country and certainly in the South.
You mentioned past storms. We are coming up on the 20th anniversary of maybe one of the most infamous storms Louisiana or this country has ever seen, and that's Hurricane Katrina. What lessons has Louisiana learned in the 20 years since Hurricane Katrina in terms of, hurricane response, but also recovery?
We learned that these storms don't care about your party. They don't care about your socioeconomic status. They don't care about how much money you have in the bank or where you live. We've learned that we have to take good note of what happened and then build on that for future storms. As it relates to Katrina, as we approach this 20th year anniversary, one that is very sorrowful with the lives that were lost and the pain that were caused, we've learned from that and we fortified our levees. And storms that have come since that time have not had as much of a devastation as they did with Katrina. And the lesson there is take good notes, invest resources. The money we spend on the front side, fortifying our levees, being resilient with our grid, being creative with how we create relationships with churches and nonprofits to have cooling centers, which I was very proud to, with community development dollars, to fund the very first in Louisiana that has become now a pilot program for the country on how we utilize solar to have cooling places, because we know as many people are injured or die in the aftermath of the storm because of lack of power and heat than they actually do of the storm. So all that builds into the ability and the power of resiliency, of being smart, learning from the past and preparing for the future. So as we embark upon this 20-year anniversary of Katrina, we know beyond a shadow of a doubt that putting money into our grid, into our shore, into our floodplains have paid huge dividends.
So today in 2025, as we approach the next hurricanes season, how would you rate Louisiana's infrastructure and storm response? What grade would you give it?
A B plus.
Okay.
Why? I would give it a B plus. We still have work to do, but we have come a very long way. B plus boarding A minus because of the progress. Louisiana has been a very good student. It has done the preparation, and I think understanding of investing in our shorelines, in our floodplains, and our levees are understood. We have great partners with our power companies who understand the importance of fortifying the grid. We have great partners with the Louisiana Public Service Commission, with our various agents and agencies around the state, CPRA and others that have worked tirelessly in a bipartisan fashion, I'm proud to say, to recognize the importance of fortifying the grid and keeping people safe.
I want
We
to.
still have work to do. We're not done. We have work to do. So
Right, right.
I'm a tough professor, so I don't give grades out easily. So B plus a pretty good grade.
Gotcha, gotcha. So I want to hone in on that phrase you used, partnerships. And we know that public private partnerships have been important for strengthening the grid. I know that Louisiana just announced two big projects with Meta and Hyundai plants. How Louisiana seems to now be a tech hub in addition to an energy hub. Talk about the impact of that and some of the benefits.
The benefits of that are obvious. We create jobs, we create opportunity. These things were all made possible because of the Inflation Reduction Act, which created opportunities for businesses to see Louisiana as a viable place. Hyundai, recognizing that the Inflation Reduction Act was a huge move for them coming to Louisiana. Our concern now, obviously, is how do we manage now the impacts of tariffs? And we don't know. That's still an unknown. We meet regularly with these individuals who are coming to town with Hyundai, Meta, and others. But we're very proud of the fact that Louisiana is open for business. It provides jobs, provides taxation. It gives us a stable economy, particularly in light of the massive cuts that are going on along the country. Now is the time that we really hone in and zero in on the fact that Louisiana, because of our close proximity to the water, to the ports, we're really a great place to situate.
You brought up tariffs, and I know that there's a lot of debate across the country about some of the tariffs President Trump has implemented, their impact. I know that you said that Louisiana's still trying to figure out the impact of those tariffs, how it will affect the energy sector in the state. But what are the effects we've seen so far, particularly with these partnerships?
They've been devastating. I mean, the reality is the uncertainty of the on again, off again tariff, the tariffs that threaten our partners who we've worked as close allies in the past, businesses that would want to situate in Louisiana, in America, are on pins and needles because these tariffs are taxes. And we can say that it's going to be on someone else, but the reality is taxes are paid by the person at the port, and then those taxes are passed on to the consumer. It's very simple, and I've tried to get people to a 101 lesson on taxation and to explain that a tariff is in fact a tax. And who pays for that tax? The person that's picking up the cargo at the port in Louisiana, they pay for that tariff. That tariff is then passed on to the person who picks it up from the person who bought the container. And then that tax is passed on to the person that's at the cash register who's purchasing the goods or services. It's very basic. So the notion that somehow this is not going to get to the consumer is disingenuous at best.
So we have these tariffs taking place, but also we understand that there are cuts to FEMA or potential cuts to FEMA that could be coming. And a state like Louisiana, which obviously is no stranger to receiving federal assistance from FEMA and working with FEMA quite a bit during these natural disasters, particularly hurricanes. Talk about the effect of those cuts going forward, especially as we're heading right into hurricane season.
Well, it couldn't be a worse time. Of course, it'd never be a good time to impact the very agency that provides resources to the people. The notion that somehow it's a good idea to even talk about reductions or elimination of FEMA as we enter hurricane season is a bit challenging to think that anyone would think that's a good idea. Let's go beyond just in talking about it. The notion of removing the agency, diluting or dispersing the agency that provides the resources for individuals to recover, to rebuild, and to be prepared as we lean into hurricane season, I think is reckless and irresponsible. It has been demonstrated that Louisiana, particularly, and I'll start there, but it can be anywhere USA now, particularly with the onslaught of natural disasters that we see in places we've never seen them before, mudslides, wildfires, tsunamis, you name it, happening, tornadoes happening in places that hadn't happened before. But Louisiana, we know they're coming. We can set our watches by it. And to think that we would dilute or disperse or get rid of FEMA is ridiculous. Now, I'd be the first to tell you that I have been a long advocate for advancing discussions about reform of the Stafford Act, reform of FEMA, making sure that we are much more agile, that we're learning from past mistakes, that we're building a stronger response team, that boots are on the ground in advance of the storm so we don't have to track them in after the storm. There are a lot of antiquated parts of FEMA, but none of it supports the demolition of it or the punting of it to states. Simply put, you cannot decentralize FEMA. You cannot have it broken into 50 states. It's a nightmare waiting to happen. I have been working closely with my colleagues in the Congress, Republican and Democrat, to push back against this, to really push for reform and not demolition. It is not the right thing to do. It's a very dangerous prospect at the worst time of all.
Congressman Carter, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.